Ireland again. You are with you, Russia. And experts on work-based learning, we are welcoming you, and I see that the seats are getting very quickly filled in. In the meantime, just let us know in the chat, where do you come from, just to have an idea to see where do we have our participants from. So let us see, we are coming to the first 100. So Sligo, nice to hear from you, Sligo from Ireland. Then we have Edel Caesar from Malta, Denmark, Abu Dhabi, Marco, welcome from Abu Dhabi. And then we have Ken from Ireland. We are obviously very popular in Ireland. Serbia, Galway, oh, Ireland again, Czech Republic, Lithuania, Netherlands, Yvonne, welcome. London, Belgium, Slovenia is coming. Very nice. Beirut, Lebanon. Ljubljana, the most beautiful capital of the world, as we would say, Portugal. Celje, Slovenia again, Portugal, 12 points. Thank you, Claudio. Yes, so 12 points from Portugal. And then we have more people coming from Lithuania, Germany, Martina, welcome. From Dresden, very nice city. And let us see, Netherlands, wow, Basque Country, Rosa, Benito, welcome. And then we have Grigorak from Maribor, welcome as well. Latvia, this we haven't had. Almost we will have a Eurovision. And as we have people from Abu Dhabi and Lebanon as well, so we will have to make it a bit broader. Also Postojna, very nice. Ireland again. Irene, you have a lot of people from Ireland coming in. Portugal, good morning, Joaquin. Yes, we are already at 107 participants, still growing a bit. Yes, oh, Spain, Daniel from Czech Republic. And you see, Irene, Brian loves you. Good, Anna Dragicevic from Slovenia, very nice to have you on board as well. And in the meantime, while you write to us where you come from, and we have a colleague from Tui, which is the oldest town in Slovenia, I would also ask you to go to the pool. If you go just a bit down on your screen, you will find a pool bar. And we will open a question just to see what kind of a profile of participants you are, not just geographically to see where you come from, but who do you represent? Do you represent more the educational institutions? Do you represent employers, students, policymakers? And that's it. We didn't give you any other option. So, Belgium, Ireland, Liskovac, Serbia, welcome. I think that probably everybody now already knows cevapcici that come from Liskovac. So, yes. Okay. Prague, Jan Biseda, welcome. Good morning. And perhaps I think we could see the profile, and we see that we have 63% of our participants are PhD institutions, 5% are employers. Then we have students. Nice to have you on board. We always are glad to see students and employers. And also policymakers, 21%, thank you. In the meantime, we have people joining, also participants joining from Croatia and Budapest. So don't worry, you can fill in the pool till still some 10 more minutes just to see which profile you are from, either PhD institution, employer, student, or learner. So most of the representatives, as already said, are PhD institutions, so from the educational area, and I think that we are quite ready to start. And today I have a very good assistant, I would say, a very good help of mine, my colleague Micha Zinczek, who will introduce and lead you to the serious part of this conference. Micha, please, the floor is yours.
The screen, actually. So, hi, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the final conference of the Apprenticetrack project. I'm Micha Zinczek, project officer at the Association of Slovene Higher Vocational Colleges, and it is my honor to be a moderator for this conference on shaping the future of smart work-based learning. Today's session will last about 2 hours, and the program is as follows. We will start with some welcome words, which will be followed by a keynote speech. Then we have presentation on synergies among employers and educational institutions, another presentation of Apprenticetrack project results, and later on panel discussion. We will close the conference with feedback and wrap up. So we will start the conference with welcome words from Mr. Egon Pipan, the president of the Association of Slovene Higher Vocational Colleges. After 10 years of teaching professional subjects, Mr. Pipan devoted his time to management in education and development of the school system in Slovenia. He was a director of the School Center Nova Gorica, president of the Expert Council for Vocational and Professional Education, member of the Commission for Preparation of Higher Vocational Education, president of the Commission for Programs at the National Expert Council for Vocational and Professional Education. And currently, he is principal of the Vocational College in Nova Gorica, Slovenia, and as said, president of the Association of Slovene Higher Vocational Colleges, who is the coordinator of this project. In these roles, of course, he met the needs and initiatives from colleges. So, Mr. Pipan, may I invite you to give us an opening speech of this conference?
Okay, thank you. So, dear colleagues, educators, dear partners, employers and policymakers, and dear future of ours, students. Within the framework of the Erasmus Plus program, we submitted a project to develop a smart electronic system for tracking apprenticeships, Apprenticetrack, under the action of strategic partnership. With the great support of our national agency, SMEPIUS, we are now coming to the successful end, so let me proudly welcome on behalf of the Apprenticetrack Project Consortium, the Association of Slovene Higher Vocational Colleges, the project coordinator, and project partners, Knowledge Innovation Center Malta, Economic School from Celje, Czech Association of School of Professional Higher Education, Vern University of Applied Science Zagreb, and the RASHE, the European Association of Institutions in Higher Education. At professional higher education institutions, our priority is to strengthen the knowledge triangle between our institutions, employers and students, and our aim is to excel it in. How this can be reached? Our first priority is the provision of higher quality apprenticeships benefiting students and employers. To do so, the initial step is to identify and establish transparent quality criteria and indicators to apprenticeships, followed by regular monitoring and evaluation of those. Enabling an effective, systematic, and harmonized response to and implementation of set quality objectives is possible through the Apprenticetrack prototype. Our project analyzed in depth the needed functionalities to ensure a user-friendly experience. Furthermore, through the design of capacity building opportunities of supervisors and mentors, we support the ongoing process of adapting to change, leading education institutions to a content transformation that enables stakeholders not only to respond to emergencies, but also to achieve a suitable, sustainable development. The Apprenticetrack prototype offers stakeholders the opportunity to ensure achievement of set learning objectives, providing the labor market with high-skilled professionals and functioned as an instrument to close the loop of rapidly developing skills forecasts, autonomous curricular development, and emerging skills gaps in the labor market, and to boost employability. The Apprenticetrack project with its outcomes address our core priorities and as such offer a solution that benefit all stakeholders in the knowledge triangle, and we look forward to further developments of the prototype coming from the actually daily use of it. The event, gathering over 100 participants, is a proof that there is an emerging need for such tools. We look forward to this event and the feedback from you, which will enable us to take the tool to the next level. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, for your words and also to keep the time limit. So now I'll turn it over to Mr. Michal Karpišek. Mr. Karpišek is the Secretary General of Eurasia. Within this role, he has been engaged in policy and representation activities at EU level focused on higher education learning, teaching, research, engagement with stakeholders, and its service for society. He supervised various projects on specific related issues and has been executive officer of the Czech Association of Schools of Professional Higher Education. Mr. Karpišek, please.
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's amazing to see the number of people who joined the event to follow the agenda of work-based learning in higher education. I was thinking what to say within the really limited time, and I know that there will be people who are much more expert in the field later on. I was thinking that I should start from the concrete case, showing how much development we need and what sort of great benefits we can get through projects like that. I'm sorry for those who have heard the story. I'm myself the graduate of the construction faculty in Technical University in Prague. And I have had the experience of having the students placement within my master's studies. It was an amazing time where I spent 3 weeks on the building site, basically driving the lift up and down. And during that time, we were supposed to write some report, and I managed to write about 30 pages about pressing the red button and green button, moving up and moving down. And to my surprise, no one ever came back to me commenting how amazingly I have developed a report about such simple task like riding the lift. I think it showed the attention which we paid in 80s to sort of issues of work-based learning. We knew that there's important practical element. Well, construction engineering is a very practical field. But basically no one in the academic environment took that seriously. And I think we have made a substantial move over the years. And I think there is still quite a long pathway to go. And I think when we were sort of looking at things from Eurasia perspective, we see the work-based learning as one of the key elements for sort of further flexibilization of higher education, for adopting new skills, for adopting the relevant skills, and much closer contact with the employers, which is one of the characteristics of professional higher education. And we have spent quite a lot of time with a number of partners looking at the concept of work-based learning, its quality, the different capacity building, awareness raising among especially the small and medium-sized enterprises. And I think there's still a lot of to do. And the project like Apprenticetrack, coming with the concrete tools, is a great stone in this sort of puzzle, which helps us to go further on. I have to say that the recent experience with the exchange with some of the higher education institutions which wanted to sort of offer us the interns for their stage shows that there is still a lot of to do to improve the communication between the higher education institution students and the employers, to specify what's the outcome of work-based learning, how to deliver that, how to assure the quality. And it's always not that easy. So we understand that there are the different concerns, there are the different complications. But we hope that tools like the one which was developed through this project may help us to make that easier. I can see for the future a few directions. There's obviously a lot of attention to be placed to quality of placements, and the tool like Apprenticetrack can help that. I think we should go further on addressing the wide work-based learning concept, which is covering much wider area of activities, addressing the wider concept of sort of recognition of practical achievements, recognition of prior learning, addressing people in work who come for new qualification or requalification. So this is a great milestone in the development, and we can see that there will be still further more work to do. So many thanks for this work, many thanks to the Slovene coordinators of the project and to the partners, and I hope that you as the participants will benefit from this interesting event. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Karpišek, many thanks to you for sharing with us your story. Next on, we have Mrs. Natasha Kranz, who is the Acting Director General of the Directorate for Secondary and Short Cycle Higher Education and Adult Education at the Ministry of Education, Science and Sport of Slovenia. With financial support for projects, the Ministry enables the implementation of many programs and activities in the field of short cycle higher education and adult education. She is an experienced practitioner who, after years in a classroom, recently took the position at the Ministry. Without further ado, I would like to welcome Mrs. Kranz to deliver her speech.
Thank you very much. I've been in this chair for 4 months, so I'm quite new with the label yet attached. So, dear ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, I'm honored to welcome you as a representative of the Slovenian Ministry of Education, Science and Sport. The Digital Education Action Plan emphasizes that the COVID-19 crisis shed light on the key enabling factors for effective digital education and training: connectivity, suitable digital equipment for learners and educators, teachers and trainers that are confident and skilled in using digital technology to support their teaching and adaptive pedagogy, leadership, collaboration and sharing of good practice and innovative teaching methods. Experiences from many countries, recognized also in Slovenia, showed us that education and training systems and institutions which previously invested in their digital capacity were better prepared to adapt teaching approaches, keep learners engaged, and continue the education and training process. Following that, Slovenian Action Plan for Digital Education is in its final stage, aligned with the European Digital Education Action Plan. It explicitly supports the need for all educators to be skilled in using digital technologies effectively in their teaching and training process, and to ensure inclusiveness in digital education. It has also confirmed that different pedagogical approaches are needed when teaching online. Teachers and learners also need to develop the skills and know-how for this different mode of learning. On systemic level, a strategic and longer-term approach to digital education and training has to be defined and led by relevant institutions taking into consideration overall supportive ecosystem of digital education. Short cycle higher education in Slovenia is a part of tertiary education as a level 5 within the European qualification framework with specific relation to the world of work. This summer, the Slovene strategy for short cycle higher education for the period 2020 and 2030 was adopted. It emphasizes the social cooperation with employers and apprenticeships as the most flexible part of tertiary education, practically oriented to agile response to employers' needs. As such, the apprenticeships, so-called practical education in Slovenia, presents 40% of the short cycle program or 800 hours. For each student, there is an in-company mentor with specific skill set to lead and prepare the student to obtain competencies needed. Those mentors are not to be forgotten when dealing with the ecosystem of digital education. Apprenticeships at professional higher education level provide opportunities to build up new skills and knowledge both on and off the job. When they are of high quality, apprenticeships promote a smoother transition from school institution to work for young people, giving them a good start to their working careers. They do so by providing a good mix of basic competences and job-specific skills as well as valuable work experience. Quality apprenticeships also provide an attractive learning pathway for youth at risk of dropping out early from initial education. Employers also benefit receiving support to identify and train workers while adding to their productive capacity and through this transform the future of their employees. The Apprenticetrack project as a digital innovation is enhancing digital competences, providing students, employers, and apprenticeships organizers a management and measurement tool ensuring quality of apprenticeship. On systemic level, Apprenticetrack provides transparent and comparative data among different countries to support further development of apprenticeship and relation between educational institutions and the world of work. With that said, our colleagues on local level, as well as the ministry on a systematic level, strongly support the further development of the Apprenticetrack tool to its full capacity in order to improve the quality, transparency, comparability, and responsiveness of apprenticeships in professional higher education. So indeed, the management processes of apprenticeships can become more efficient, environment and user-friendly, benefiting all stakeholders in all levels. So I wish you all well, take care, stay healthy, and good discussions today. So that's it.
Okay, Mrs. Carnes, thank you for your support and sharing with us some relevant messages that I'm sure panelists will cover later on during the panel discussion. Moving on, may I briefly introduce to you all our keynote speaker, Mr. Norbert Schöbel. Since 2014, he has been working as team leader in the DG for Employment, Social Affairs and Inclusion of the European Commission. His main task is to promote apprenticeships and other forms of work-based learning. He is responsible for the ET 2020 Working Group on Vocational Education and Training, the European Alliance for Apprenticeships, the European Apprentices Network, and the Task Force European Vocational Skills Week. Mr. Schöbel, please.
Many thanks, and yeah, I have quite some task. If I hear it, I am a bit scared, but yeah, that's how it is. Thank you very much for inviting me, and I think it was already very interesting to hear the success of the reforms in Slovenia, and I think next year the Slovenian presidency, we will hear more about that, and we can really learn what you do also in relation to higher vocational education training, which is, I think, a very important way to go. And I think we can learn a lot from your country. I also liked the example from your Secretary General about the construction area. When I started working on apprenticeship, I heard an example, and I use it from time to time. There was a training in Belgium where they wanted to become a roofer. So it was a 3-year program. And at the end of the program, the person doing this training realized that he becomes dizzy when he goes on the roof. So because work-based learning did not exist as such, just at the end of the training. And I think there is no doubt today, and I can say that openly, I don't blame it now on the Belgians, because they have done really serious reforms and introducing apprenticeships in Belgium, which was not part of their tradition. And that is precisely, I think there's no doubt today that work-based learning is important. But the topic of today is not to question, do we need work-based learning? Is it in VET or higher education? It's about smart work-based learning. I think that's the next step. How can we really work in a way that it makes sense? And I think your project will contribute to this and to provide answers to these questions. Now, if you allow me, I would give you in the 10 minutes a bit of broader picture what we do at the European Commission, meaning that it's really trying to work together with member states to make progress in that area. But if I can have my next slide, then you will see the basic principle I think we should not forget is the European Pillar of Social Rights. And the first principle, it's really about education, training, and lifelong learning. And lifelong learning has been a key word for so many years. And it remains valid. It remains valid. We cannot forget about it. And it becomes even more important if you think about the last months, which we have not expected to be the way they were. And we had to learn a lot. And I think we did learn a lot. And just the fact that the way we being together now, it's so easy, it works without any problems, shows that we learned something. The next slide, you see that I will not go into all the challenges, but I think today I will focus a little bit on the digitalization. The greening is also, of course, as important as digitalization, but that would, we need another session on that, only on the greening, so I will not concentrate on that. But COVID-19 has really made us think about, but digitalization existed, the process was before COVID already. So actually it has only accelerated the way we need to find solutions. And for both schools, but also for the in-company training. And sometimes I heard that schools had difficulties, particularly when they had to close. This is no more the case now. But also companies suddenly could no more take the apprentices. And I found the last months, interesting examples that sometimes even a company, we learned it from Munich Airport, when the schools were closed, they could bring in the apprentices that did the learning in the company. So all that happened if you are smart. I mean, you need to find quick solutions and you need to give the learners the chance to learn where it's possible. I think that was very important. Now, next slide, you can see that we just have, with the German presidency, have a framework now, we call it as part of the bigger process in vocational education training. And you can see that these are the 4 main pillars. Again, I cannot go into all the details, but you will see on the very left that there is a new buzzword, as we call it sometimes, resilience. I think resilience is, I haven't heard it, I didn't know exactly what it meant a couple of months ago, but now I think we all with back pains and we know what stress means, and we know also that resilience is very important, and we need to be innovative and flexible. Flexibility is something which is also very important, and that brings me just to the link between vocational education and training and also higher education, where I come at the very end as well back to that. So CVET, of course, as we call continuous vocational education training, is very important, meaning that we also need not only to think about initial vocational education training, but also the upskilling and reskilling of our workers. That is, of course, very important. We just had one example from the Swedish Airlines, where the staff of the airline could be reoriented to support the health sector because they had no job anymore. So that's one good example of a flexibility, of course, without saying that, that you need professional healthcare. You cannot simply replace it by a short training. And I hope you all agree on that. The next slide shows you what the Commission has adopted on 1st of July. And I like the slide a lot because it shows you a little bit the two dimensions. Our priority was to work on upskilling, reskilling of adults and workers, so that's to the right. But also because of the problem we saw, I think in Germany we have figures that to 10 or 20% of apprenticeship went down because of COVID, because the SMEs, for instance, the smaller companies, they can no more, if they have no business, let's say, case behind, how can they invest in young people? So to avoid the problems that we had after the financial crisis in 2013, having in some countries more than 40% of young people unemployed, we thought we need to do something really to avoid this problem. That's why we have also a focus on youth employment with a support package, a reinforced youth guarantee, and also I will come back to that on a renewed Alliance for Apprenticeship. We also have adopted a skills agenda. I cannot go into all the details, and a council recommendation, which we just have adopted. So all that said, there is quite a lot of policy initiatives behind youth employment, and we know that apprenticeship is one key topic here and one success factor, I would say. Next slide, you can see the vision of the VET recommendation, which just has been adopted. And I just want to again highlight that it addresses both young people and adults, and it's mainly to manage the recovery of this, what we call twin transition, the green and the digital economy. We also want to go more to a global dimension, skills develop becoming a global reference, and we work very closely with some international players, skills competitions in Euroskills, WorldSkills, with the ILO, working on standards at global level on apprenticeship. So there's quite a lot, and we want to do more also with the European Training Foundation, working beyond, because I think we need to broaden our, and I think the other countries are very interesting what we do. Yesterday I heard for the first time an idea, maybe establishing, we have a European Alliance for Apprenticeship, maybe an African Alliance for Apprenticeship. So I heard it for the first time. I don't know if this will fly, but just to tell you that the European, what we do at European level is a model which is seen very positive in other parts of the world. Let's go to the next slide because I will not overdo it. The skills agenda, we also adopted. I cannot go into all the details, but you can see, for instance, under 6, you can see the skills to support twin transitions. There, of course, we have the digital skills, the green skills, but of course, we need also have transversal skills, as you can see under 7, soft skills, and apprenticeship combine both the job-specific ones, particularly digital skills, but all other skills you need in the sector, with the transversal skills. Business Europe always highlights that, but also other players. It is even the fact that you learn in apprenticeship, I'm German, that's not why I'm saying that, but to be on time, come to the company on time, not at any time, but of course critical thinking, emotional intelligence, teamwork, all that is very important. Now the next slide shows you the youth guarantee. I'll just show it, which is again, important in the sense that we widen it up to beyond 25 years to 30 years. And it's also more focused on prevention and inclusiveness. I think I should stop here, but the next slide shows you, and that I think is important now for you, is the renewed alliance. Why do you think we need to have a new impetus? Well, as I just said, we need to maintain the supply because we see that in many countries, the supply goes down, and that's exactly what we don't want. And there are good examples in many countries like Germany, France, Austria. There are bonus systems for SMEs. They get 3,000 euros, for instance, or a cup of money to when they keep them, and even extra money if they put additional young people in the apprenticeship system. We want to continue the reforms, which have been quite successful in the last years in many member states. And our next slide shows you what are the priorities. We want to look a little bit because we have the European Alliance for Apprenticeship now since 2013, we want to look at what happens at national level, and we have some good examples in Norway, in Romania, in Greece. There are some coordination mechanisms. Of course, we need to continue to support the SMEs, and we also want to look more to the local and regional level because they have a double role. They are both, they can be a catalyst for the region or the city. And with the region of the metropolitan city of Rome, we have just created a city network working on apprenticeship. Maybe Ljubljana also would like to join. I don't know. And also we have regional authorities. The next role, of course, they also employ us. So we should not underestimate the role that cities or regions play as employers. So they can do quite a lot. Social partners play a key role, both trade unions and employers, also at sector level. And the last point is really we would like to stress the learner's perspective and to see how the apprentices themselves can represent them in the member states. There's really a lot still to do. We have created a European Apprentices Network, but we don't have the structures at national level. They're either organized in trade unions or in youth organizations, but there is not something very specific on apprentices. So these are the priorities. Now I hope I still have a few more minutes. Then I go the next slide shows you the support service. We have 3 pillars. I will not go more into detail, but this is part of the money we invest to make the European Alliance for Apprenticeship successful. And just today we have a meeting on bench learning. Each country has a coordinator, and bench learning is a new word, a new methodology, but at the end it's something like with a benchmark combining with a peer learning. And that's how we try to support member states. And this afternoon we have the meeting we meet twice a year on bench learning. Now, the next slide shows you a little bit about the tools. Your representative from the Slovene president has already mentioned the digital action plan. We also have very soon, I think in 2 weeks, we will publish the working group report. We have done and worked 2 years quite intensively, and this report will give you a lot of examples from member states, even lighthouse projects on innovation and digitalization. That's I think I'm very proud, and I think it will be really a source of inspiration. And then we also have an online tool for the selfie tool for work-based learning, which I would like to mention. And so I think there's a lot, and there will be more in the future to be done in the area of digital. A few words on higher vocational education training, because this is, of course, very important. The next slide shows you, I want to say that we have very good examples in the working group report, but also we will come up with a study, the OECD, where we have an in-depth analysis of higher VET. And also I would like to mention again the VET recommendation, because it has several references to the EKF levels 5 to 8. And it also creates a link to centers of vocational excellence and all kind of higher vet programs, which you mentioned and which are very important also in Slovenia. So higher vet is very important for us. And also, I think, and that is my last word on that, we need these links between vet and higher vet and higher education. And here you can see that this is a source provided by Cedifob. I've shown it last time in my presentation, which shows you in a nice way the overlaps. But we also have all of us to think outside of the boxes, I think, and see where we can make progress. Now, let me finish. I just want to say in the next slide that we just finished last week, the European Vocational Skills Week, where we also had to go all digital. That was new for us, but it was successful. I think we had a very high number of participation, so the digital dimension helps us as well to reach out to more people. And let's see how we organize it next year. It will fall under the Slovenian presidency. Let me now just say that in the last slide, I think you will see there's, yeah, this slide is something we I think can all share as individuals, that we should follow our passion. The last slide shows you a little bit the links to some of the documents, but let me just conclude. I heard also at the beginning the very important role of, you call them supervisor and mentors, and what you've done also in Slovenia. But I think in general, I can only highlight again how important teachers and trainers are, and how important the cooperation is between teachers on one side and those who are in the companies, call them mentors or trainers, and that they're also qualified. I think that is extremely important. I think just the last maybe word on this event today, you call it shaping the future. I can only say the way you work, you are shaping the future, and you contribute to this smart work-based learning through the way you develop the tools, to the way you organize it. So again, congratulations to your work. And I have no doubt that future will be good if we have people like you to help us. And I'm also very happy with the support that you give us to later with some newcomers joining the big family of the European Alliance for Apprenticeship. Many thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Schöbel, for your kind words. Thank you also for sharing with us some new buzzwords. It's always helpful when we're writing new projects. And yeah, of course, thank you for stating some valid points. I have numerous questions, but I will wait for the Q&A part to set them. Okay, I'm glad you included European Vocational Skills Week, because our next presenter, Mrs. Adriana Hodak, was a Slovenian ambassador during European Vocational Skills Week. Mrs. Adriana Hodak has worked at the school center Nova Gorica for 22 years as a professor of German language, coordinator for international projects, and since 2007 holds position as head of Intercompany Training Center. The last 4 years, she is also representative of consortium of Slovenian school centers in EU ProVet. She's also project leader of a national project, NERA 3, a 5-year ESF funded project that aims at training more than 1,700 employees according to the needs of the modern labor work, Industry 4.0, and new area society. Mrs. Hodak, please.
Hi. First of all, thank you for the invitation, and dear participants, dear guests, hello also from my side. So wait just that I start sharing my presentation. Do you see it?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So let me show you how actually we are trying very hard to establish a real concrete and sustainable synergy with the ecosystems and with the companies and the VET providers. So today I would like to share with you the story of our platform for IoT excellence, vocational excellence, which is Industrial IoT, Internet of Things, and it's called Talentjourney. Why did we choose the name Talentjourney? Because everyone who is going to enter our platform is going to be on a constant journey of developing and discovering their talents. Sorry. Just a minute. Oh, so as we heard before, yes, Europe is in the middle of the transition to the green and digital Europe. But what is additional is also now that we are facing COVID. And the platforms for vocational excellence are going to play a very important role, because we need to establish a system, a vocational education training system, who is going to be really, as said before, very responsive or resilient to the new world, and very agile and flexible. And there is really a huge number of workers that will need to be reskilled and upskilled. So this is really a big challenge for us. But in the talent journey, we see actually two main challenges. We are facing the new generations of learners and employees, and they think differently. They bring new perceptions of how they educate, how they work, how they live. And the next challenge is that we want to develop and share knowledge and skills, ideas in the field of IoT, join together all the experts from these fields in Slovenia, Finland, Estonia, and Italy, and scale it to the worldwide excellence and recognition. Talentjourney is a project which was actually launched by the European Commission initiative, Centers for Vocational Excellence, Platforms for Vocational Excellence. It was launched last year together with 4 other Centers of Vocational Excellence. This year, 7 new projects appeared. It was awarded a little bit less than €1 million, and we have the partnership of 13 partners from Italy, from Finland, Estonia, Slovenia, and Germany, VET providers, including Higher VET, University of Applied Sciences, companies, national institutions for VET, associations of employers, so really a kind of very rich ecosystem of stakeholders. So as I said in the beginning, we are really facing huge challenges, but if you want to establish a system which is going to be very efficient and really will help people to become successful professionals, but also satisfied people, because this is also important. A satisfied person can be a very good worker. It's one of the main focuses, the user, so the user centricity. All activities, all actions that we are going to deliver in the frame of our platform are going to be user-centered. In the first phase of the project, we made a research, we made interviews with various stakeholders, learners, companies, company experts, tutors, teachers. And for example, in these clouds, in the slides that will follow, you can see the quotes from different learners. And here is, for example, just an example of the quote. It would be nice to have an idea of what to expect on a topic, subject, or course. Sometimes I wish that the journey could be predicted to have a better understanding of what to study, to see what are the possibilities out there. This was the quote of the learner. So why I'm mentioning this? Because it's very important that the system is going to be created according to learners' needs and interests. And if they said that they need more insights to be able to decide easier and to really come to a knowledge who is going to help them to discover their talents and develop them, so is this user centricity very important. Just for a short information, the estimations were made, I think that 2 years ago, that only about 45% of young people lack the information what are the skills needed or what are the job opportunities for the digital industry. The second focus and the very important insights that we got out is actually, of course, industry, because we are preparing people for the labor market. The main message was that we need to connect disciplines for a holistic understanding. We know that the disciplines, or let's say sectors, which are appearing now in new era industry are different. They are much more interdisciplinary. So we decided, for example, for industrial IoT. And in industrial IoT, you have so many disciplines such as AI, cybersecurity, data science, process production development, robotics, etc. And we need to offer the programs, the trainings who will catch all these disciplines, or at least will give the insight how these specific disciplines are interconnected. So this is the message. How do we need to prepare the learner to be able to cope these new transitions? And because we are talking about the transitions, of course, we are talking about the innovations, because the innovations are needed if you want to make the transition. And the companies and the industry, of course, is in the search for talent to foster development. We got the insight, so that it's important to grow from technology adopter to technology developer and provider. Many companies express this. So we need to prepare the learners to be able to be an active partner in these innovation processes. And of course, the third focus is ecosystem. All the things, all the actions that we are going to offer inside our platform, they are impossible to do without a very good ecosystem. So we need to have a sustainable ecosystem with partners in the economy, abroad, internationally, in our local environment, to get knowledge and information on how to develop and where to develop, and have this knowledge transfer to all stakeholders. So this is a very important issue. And that's why through the project, we made also, we use the service design approach, because we really want to dig it deeper to see what kind of relations are actually happening between our stakeholders at different levels. In the right corner, upper, you can see all the stakeholders. This is the example of Slovenia, that are connected to the learners. So just think how important it is that these VET stakeholders collaborate very good, that actually we can provide then the learner with the skills that are needed by the labor market. And for example, in the left corner down at the bottom, you can see the learner is connected very much to the family and friends. They have a big influence, to the teachers and tutors, to the VET providers as a school, companies, and also university in case they decide, of course, to continue their studies. For the tutors and teachers, they have very strong connections with the learners, of course, because they are teachers, VET providers, companies, and universities of applied sciences. Whereas, for example, if we see still the companies, you can also see what kind of relations they have to VET providers, to learners, to universities, technological parks, association of employers, but they are mostly connected regionally, not that much nationally. And we also made the connection from CPI. CPI is National Institute for VET in Slovenia, and they presented actually which are their strongest connection at the regional level, and this is mostly VET providers. So we discussed what kind of strengths we see here and what kind of weakness points, and where we will need to strengthen our collaboration to give the learner really the skills they need to be able to cope the industry. And just to be a little bit easier understandable, I put some actions that we are going to deliver in the frame of our platform for IoT. It's not going to be only a digital platform, also the offline platform, of course. But so far, yes, during the COVID period, and I mean, in this time, digital is very, very important, but definitely we are going to continue with digital version after the COVID as well. So it's going to offer IoT career guidance. As I said before, it is very important that people have the insights. What are job opportunities? What are the courses actually provided for IoT field? IoT digital library, all the webinars, all the very important links, platforms, articles are going to be found there in the IoT field. The international joint curriculum on EQF 4 and 5 between these countries, but we are going to spread the partnership, upskilling training, so for lifelong learning, professional development, train the trainers. We are just preparing for all the mentioned fields, artificial intelligence, holistic view of IoT, green skills, because I forgot to say before that in all these trainings and curricula, the green skills and the meta skills transfers are going to be a must-be part. IoT hands-on projects, because we need to give to the learners as many as possible IoT hands-on projects, which are going to be really work-related projects, concrete problem-solving oriented, job shadowing, work-based learning in companies. That's why we are preparing now, establishing the pool of companies who are going to offer the work-based learning in the IoT field, and the mentoring scheme. IoT hackathons, because we are talking about the innovation. So we need to orient the learners and all the stakeholders who are going to collaborate inside to bring them that the innovation is a kind of a must-be part. Co-working space, and of course, as I said, digital platform data. Thank you for the introduction. In the case of any questions, yes, I'm available for any answers.
Thank you. It was nice to hear your interesting presentation, of course, the future of artificial intelligence, etc. But we are time limited, so moving on, Mrs. Alicia Leonor Sauli-Miklaucic will present Apprenticetrack project results and work-based learning checklist. Mrs. Miklaucic is the founder of the Erasmus Alumni Club for students and staff. Okay. And she is also a head of development in the Association of Slovene Higher Vocational Colleges. As a coordinator of one of Erasmus Mobility projects, she was awarded the title of Erasmus Success Stories in 2012 by the European Commission. She is the board member of Erashe, member of Web Providers Expert Group of the European Commission and the European Alliance for Apprenticeship, founding member of Chain5. Mrs. Miklaucic, please tell us more about the Apprenticetrack project.
Hello, welcome also from my side, from the side of the coordinator of our project Apprenticetrack, which we are proud to present and which was prepared together with the partners from Croatia, Czech Republic, Malta, and Russia. So thank you all of our partners as well. So if I may go on, I would just like to present you what we wanted to focus on, and that is the how to organize and monitor company placements, because I'm sure that probably especially those who come from educational institutions know very well how it is when you have a few hundred students out there and you don't know how they are doing, if they're doing the apprenticeship, how they're progressing, etc. How to ensure comparability and transparency, and how to include latest findings and guidelines on quality apprenticeship into ensuring quality apprenticeships. The next one is the aim. So we set ourselves as an aim to come to common understanding of the overall management of apprenticeships. I must say that it was already difficult to come to an overall agreement what apprenticeship is, because in Europe we have work-based learning, apprenticeship, internship, placement, so many different terminologies. And I must say that we agreed to use the word apprenticeship in a very wide sense. So it is a practical experience in the company, so in the real setting. So this was our definition of what an apprenticeship is. Then we also aim to support the professional higher education institutions and students, as well as employers, with an efficient monitoring system, as well as proposed internal quality framework for the PhD institutions, but of course as well also for employers, and also to produce a guidance for stakeholders. And now how to achieve that? Well, we were sure that we will achieve this by ensuring learning outcomes, which should be achieved through the apprenticeship. So really get a clear assurance for achieving those, improve the quality and transparency of comparability and responsiveness, improve efficiency of cooperation between the world of work and professional higher education institutions, meet the needs of employers, students, institutions in the field of ICT supporting tools, as well as increase attractiveness of PhD. And now if we go to the next part, which is the project sequences. So how we started is simply by understanding what the state of the art is out there. Then we proposed the management system, the technological methods, created the tool as a prototype, developed and implemented a course for mentors, and now we are doing the final validation. The testing has already been finished. And while understanding the state of art, of course, we prepared a survey and also a research among employers. And when we asked the employers how they are dealing, so if they have set clear learning objectives for the apprenticeships, you can see that in the 3 countries, the difference was very quite extensive. So in Croatia, none of the employers have clear set learning objectives for the apprenticeship. In the Czech Republic, only a quarter of those employers, and in Slovenia, a bit more than a half only have clear set objectives for the apprenticeship. Also, when we ask them, the employers, about the system to train mentors, we can see that only in Slovenia, more than a half has some kind of a system to train mentors, while in Croatia and the Czech Republic, that share is quite poor. So there is a very big need for that. And the employers also clearly showed that they lack guidelines, especially in Croatia, and half of the employers in Czech Republic, while in Slovenia, only 14% lack and need those, while the others either have them or don't need them because they find another way how to deal with it. And when we asked the employers if they would use a web platform to support monitoring and evaluation of apprenticeships, you can see that in Croatia, they are 100% definitely that they would need such a web platform, in 91% in the Czech Republic, and more than 50% in Slovenia. And yes, when we have done the same survey in the schools, so let us say institutions, we can see that half of the Croatians still don't have a document setting the learning objectives for the apprenticeships. Only 20% lock those documents in the Czech Republic, while in Slovenia we don't have those problems because we have it prepared already on a regulatory basis. Then if we, yes, sorry, the need for the platform, you can see that again, Croatian institutions also 100% for the web platform, 90% of the Czech Republic, in the Czech Republic, and more than 80% in Slovenia. And when we asked the students what the situation was, we could see that in Croatia, almost half the students said that they lack clear document with setting learning objectives for the apprenticeship. In the Czech Republic, 60% of the students lack that, and in Slovenia, 17% of the students. When we ask them also about if they need a clear system to choose and or find a placement, we can see that only a third of Croatians said that they would need some help. Half of the Czech Republic and quarter of the Slovenian students said that they would appreciate a clear system for matching students and placements. Here we have if they would appreciate a platform to monitor and evaluate apprenticeships, and you can see again that this time 100% of the Czech students would really appreciate it, 92% of Slovenian and 80% of the Croatians. So in all three countries, definitely between 80 and 100%, which is good. And this is why when we sum up all the things together, we see that there is definitely a need for clear system documentation for learning objectives. There is a big need for guidelines to support mentors. A training system for mentor is lacking, a matchmaking platform for students and employers, and the web platform to support the monitoring and evaluation. And when we went further, just a moment, yay, okay, good. So in the second step, we, based on those identified processes for apprenticeship management, we also prepared criteria for each of these processes and set quality indicators for each criterion. We provided a common framework to describe, monitor, assess, and report apprenticeships. We've done a peer review with international experts on quality in work-based learning, and we prepared recommendations. And you can find both those documents on our webpage, and here you can see them. And I would go further on so we don't spend time. And then we started setting the proposed technological methods based on the the information we received in output 1. And first what we did is really identify technologies that are already used not in our countries but around Europe, and we have even answers from Australia, etc. What we could see is that only 55% of institutions use any kind of a management system, so technological solution. Each institution, so of those 55% of institutions that use such systems, 100% use them together with students, but only half of those also include employers in the system of apprenticeship management. And when we wanted to check how those covered the processes that we set, we can see that in most cases the monitoring of the apprenticeship was covered. You can see the violet one bar, and that only in 66%. in 50%, the setting of the learning outcomes was also covered by this tool. Then in 45%, the management of the apprenticeship was also covered, and then also a bit less, so 40% the assessment. All the others processes like creating apprenticeships, identifying and matching, negotiating the agreement and recognition, etc., was really not often included in any kind of the system, management system. So that's why we started working on the technological methods based on what we got, and we prepared a metadata standard, really showing the required information that we need and how we define that information. Then we prepared also the ontology, which really connects the relations between all the layers in the system and the various users in the system. And we also prepared the technological roadmap with all the components, how they connect to each other, and prepared the tool. And here you can see how we prepared the tool. What you can see on your very far left is the basic system that each university or institution uses, where you have the students, the database of students, exams, etc. And the big square here in the middle is our Apprenticetrack system. So this is a system that you attach to your already existing database, so you don't need to create new ones, and the tool itself imports the data of the students, apprenticeship coordinator data, and all the needed data from your main system that you have, database system. Then in Apprenticetrack, we have a direct connection to the coordinator at the institution of apprenticeships, the student, and the mentor. So they can all communicate through the Apprenticetrack system, and I will show you a few things how. And at the end, all the output data go back into the system that the university usually uses for their exams and tracking. We also prepared, of course, the functionalities that we all want to have, and we have a lot of functionalities with students that they want to use, companies that want to use, and colleges. Let me say that we already achieved more than 60% of those really functions, but some of them are still under nice to have, and in the future we will develop them further. But for the students, as you could see, and employers, one of the very important issues was the matchmaking, and this is already prepared in the tool, as well as the assessment, the monitoring, so the regular monitoring, how they're assessed, the records, etc. If I go further on to make it a bit shorter to catch up some time, so this would be the login into our system. You can log in as a different user, either student, mentor, or institutional coordinator. When you enter the tool, you have a dashboard. Here you have language, so we provide the tool at the moment in 5 languages: English, German, Czech, Croatian, and Slovene. We hope to provide it in all European languages. So the person who enters the tool immediately sees here, you know, the alert if you have some new messages that you haven't checked yet. who you are, your profile, and then the list of your enterprises or students and mentors. And for example, here we can already see that this student already progressed and has already achieved quite a few competences, that skills that were added. This is the basic profile of the student, where you can see the main things. Also, the agreement can be signed and reports can be attached here, and all the main information of the apprenticeship is regulated here. How many hours, from when till when, the beginning, and everything. This is the part where the agreement is being set. So all the articles of the agreement can be live, followed by all three parties, and at the end they are signed by all three parties. So the agreement with everything included, learning outcomes and everything that is needed, is in the tool itself to be found. And this is just one copy as a test. We have different competencies, and each competence, the progress in each competence can be simply by moving a bar. You can see the progress of the student. At the end, you have the overall progress of the student in all the competencies that are agreed and set. So you can follow this, and the same overall progress you follow in the dashboard, if you remember before. The overall progress is in this orange color till the student hasn't achieved the minimum competencies needed for the completion, successful completion of the apprenticeship. And here you have an example of this final certificate or completion report also. If I go further on, the next step for us was to develop, based on this, also the course for mentors. As you can see, we prepared the course in 3 modules before the apprenticeship, so in the preparation of the apprenticeship, during the apprenticeship, and then completing the apprenticeship. It sounds very similar to the Erasmus mobility, you know, where you have these 3 phases: before the mobility, during the mobility, and then the final part of the mobility. On our webpage, you can find also the handbook. We prepared special handbook for a moderator, and then you have a textbook and workbook for mentors with exercises, etc. within, and extra additional materials that can be found. We already, all 3 partners, prepared those courses for mentors. It is a 79-hour course, so it is a quite substantial course for mentors. In Slovenia, we started it in early September and finished it like 21st of October. We had 5 mentors present, and this was also inserted into the ministerial catalog for continuous progress development of the teachers and mentors. And so 5 of our mentors already achieved the 3 ECTS program. The program was also done in the Czech Republic and in Croatia, and I must admit that it was very difficult due to COVID to go through with it, because we had a lot of quarantines and mentors who were overloaded. If I go further on, just as a result from 2 projects, We also prepared a short checklist because we were asked by employers that additionally to this very detailed materials, we prepared them like a small checklist, what is important for them to know. And we prepared them something very similar, as you can see, to the Erasmus charter. We prepared here a checklist for the quality of work-based learning. And what we are also thinking further on is how we can develop this tool further on. Well, already now this can be used for competence trends tracking, meaning exactly that through the evaluation process, each institution really receives the feedback how good are students already achieving their competencies. So if students are not achieving their competencies as they should, this is already an alarming light for the institution to really check their own curricula, how they can assure for the students to achieve those better. And also what we can receive information here is from employers, what kind of skills, competencies they expect more from our students for the future also. And in this case, we don't need to wait for graduate tracking, but we can already start checking updating our curricula while the student is still there studying within the program. So this is, let us say, because we know that the world is changing very quickly, I think one step further and closer to really make the programs as agile and as flexible as possible. Then what we also think is important, that through this kind of communication, we can offer our employers also identify opportunities for up and reskilling needs, especially for their employees when they are upgrading or changing technologies. Instead of laying those employees that they already have off, they up or reskill the already existing labor force because they are loyal and they know the company culture. Also, we are starting working on distance work-based learning or remote work-based learning, and we will try to, in the future, to link the this tool to Europass, so that the students will have credentials then directly in Europass. Also, we would try to connect the competencies to ESCO, EQF, which are already being connected by the Commission now. And then also we would like to connect it to ECAVET, ESGs, and other things. And if I go to the end, just to let you know that we really work a lot on apprenticeships and work-based learning, and we developed quality systems, mentor train support materials, etc. And also at the moment are the part of the research team for Selfie VBL, which is really assessing the digital readiness. It is a free tool in all European languages that is at the moment assessing your digital readiness of your institution. And if I come to the end, change is a constant. Accept it, act on it, embrace it, and have fun. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Miklaucic, for a very insightful and step-by-step presentation of Apprenticetrack project and its results. So, yeah, moving on. Our next session is expert talk. do's and don'ts of launching successful apprenticeship programs. Before we start the expert talk or panel discussion, please allow me to briefly introduce our panelists. First, we have Professor Irene Sheridan, Cork Institute of Technology, Ireland. Professor Sheridan currently leads the CIT Extended Campus at the Cork Institute of Technology. Her research interests include mapping and measuring engagement between higher education and enterprise and various forms of experiential learning. She is a founding member of the Enterprise Engagement and Experiential Learning Research Groups in CIT. She is a member of the board of QQI. Next, we have Mrs. Nina de Winter from European Students' Union. She is a member of the Executive Committee of the European Students' Union. She holds a bachelor's degree in international relations by the University of Groningen. Her expertise lies within the areas of quality assurance, student-centered learning, and internationalization of education. We also have Mr. Adam Gajek from the Association of European Chambers of Commerce and Industry. He is a policy advisor at the association where he coordinates the work of skills and entrepreneurship. He is also advising a leading network of European employers in the field of vocational education and training, social policy, and entrepreneurship. He was previously a president of the European Students' Union. I also invite our keynote speaker, Mr. Schobel, to again join us, as well as our project coordinator and moderator of this panel discussion, Mrs. Miklaučić.
Thank you very much, Miha. So welcome all our panelists. I'm great to have you, really glad to have you here on board. And yes, we are already quite short in time because we had so much to show you. So I think we should get directly to the point. So do you, as a representative of the profile that you do, so Adam, you are representing the employers, Nina, you represent the students, and Irene, you represent the institutions, our higher education institutions, and Norbert, of course, you as a policymaker. Let us see if you can promise us a few things, how to support us. So how do you see such a tool useful and why? And I would start with Nina, students, directly to you.
Thank you. I think that's a good start, right? First of all, let's see if it works for the students. Because if it doesn't work for the students, maybe we should. So here I will say it's a very unuseful tool, and let's no, it's. I'm super happy with this initiative, and it's. I got a very elaborate introduction from Alicia before, and also I checked out the website very thoroughly, and I think if it works, it's wonderful, and it will. And there's a lot of elements in which I think that there's a lot in it for students. And the first thing, and that's I think one of the most important things from the student side, is that there is some kind of like continuous feedback on yourself, on your own work, but also what's happening within your internship. Because I think what's the worst thing is if you have a mentor that doesn't really guide you, or that's very busy in him or herself, and after a couple of months you hear like, okay, but this is the learning outcomes that you obtained and this you didn't obtain. Well, maybe yourself throughout the process you had a completely different feeling. And I think having this constant dialogue is super important. And this is also something I think that there needs to be a lot of value upon throughout the process, and also when the tool is there. And this needs to be part of the training. It's like, okay, how are we going to have this constant dialogue between the mentor, the institution, and the teacher? Because the tool provides the opportunities for that, but it's still very much based on the person and dependent on the person whether this conversation is really going to take place. And that's what I really want to highlight from the student perspective, like use this tool as the start of a good dialogue between the student and mentor and the teacher. And I think in general, that's also what it is with the tool. It's a very good technical starting position to still have a good dialogue. And I think in that sense, it can help a lot. And in another point where I see really the added value is also in more, not generalizing, because of course every apprenticeship is still different, but creating more a basis also for recognition of the apprenticeships throughout Europe, and to kind of like guide it a little bit better, while of course you see that it's very much based in like very close to where the student studies most of the time, where you do your apprenticeship, what kind of skills and competences are important. And I think it's super nice if we are able to broaden this perspective and also see from this tool like what is the skills and the knowledge that on a general level is necessary for students to obtain in order to be successful after their graduation. So in general, I think for students this could be a wonderful tool if it's used as the basis of a good dialogue.
Very good, thank you. Now from the students, I think the next one should be Irene. So to cover the ladies at the professional higher education institutions. So from your side.
Thank you very much, Alicia, and thank you very much to everybody. I've learned a lot this morning. I just need to step a little bit back and say that we just need to consider the language a little. You have explained, Alicia, very well that you've used the term apprenticeship in its broadest sense. And I suppose I should say that there are situations within which, and Ireland is one of them, within which the term apprenticeship has regulatory and legislative limitations and is kind of part of a national curriculum. So it is important when I speak that I say that I am speaking around work-based learning in a very broad sense. And even going back to Norbert, what Mr. Schobel had to say earlier on, I'm speaking about work-based learning in the sense of learning pathways integrated into higher education. In fact, we're working on integrating work-based learning into doctoral education with one of our centres for research training at the moment. So I'm talking about a broad range of activities which might be better defined as work integrated learning. And I'm also talking about those activities which are the more usual activities that take a student who is, for all intents and purposes, a full-time learner within an academic domain and places them into a work-based domain for a period of time. But we're also working very closely with employers to take workers who are in that workplace domain and to integrate learning into their work so that they learn not just at work, but through work. So that is kind of a continuum as far as we're concerned. This notion of work-based learning as the planned acquisition of learning outcomes within the practice domain through designed work-based learning pathways is very close to my heart. And we would see in CIT where I work that the campus as such extends out into the workplace, and equally the workplace extends into the campus, and that there aren't hard lines drawn, and that this is part of a very close partnership. And that word partnership is really important, because if you want to do that, then you have to build on real partnerships, real relationships with realistic expectations and with resources. And I'm going to come back to that, Alicia, in terms of the mentoring on both sides. And our role, and the role of myself and colleagues in the CIT Extended Campus, is to identify opportunities to bring together good practice and to support good practice in that development. And if you start from that premise that the workplace itself is a valid and valuable centre of learning, then the next logical steps are to design that learning in a way that makes the best use of that workplace within that programme or for that particular learner. So for that particular learner, and with particular attention, I suppose, being paid to work-based learning at the very higher levels of the curriculum, at doctoral level and so on. We pay a lot of attention to what is a graduate, what is graduateness. What are the attributes that they can gain in the workplace that transform them, that contribute to the development of their professional identity, making them the professional that they will be? And we talk about things like the action, the reflection, the learning cycle. We talk about professional development, but also personal development, domain-specific knowledge, transferable learning. And this notion then of a learning outcomes approach brings me back to your tool, because none of this can happen unless the parties, which are the employer, the learner, the education provider, unless they have planned and worked together to agree what is going to be gained in that domain, and then how is that going to be supported, and how are they going to monitor it well during that really valuable time frame. And how are they going to provide scaffolds for the learner, for the employer, for the education provider? And we did some research, it's more than a decade ago, around work placement in Ireland. And we looked at that time around work placement in all higher education institutions in Ireland. And we found that the difficulties were exactly what your tool addresses, which is communication. Communication is key. And that communication, we also, as it happens, divided out the guideline we developed from that research into the before, during, and after phases, because that was logical. And we broke it down in terms of what the student should do before, what the employer should do before. And really, I think your tool has, while it is called Apprenticetrack, and in Ireland that might limit its application or our thinking, I think your tool has a really valid place to play in supporting consistency, in supporting quality assurance, good practice, tying that communication together regularly, using really common and supportive digital techniques to bring that together, to support the workplace, because the language that we spoke about earlier, internships, work placements, work integrated learning, work-based learning, apprenticeship, traineeship, I mean, these are confusions for us in higher education. So what they present to employers must be a minefield. So without going on any further, I think your tool has a really good application in supporting a very broad general approach to work-based learning. I would take it right back and say it needs to get into the planning what can be learned and the agreement of learning outcomes, and we'd like to see it really excitingly used in terms of personalized pathways for students. And also, I can't leave Alicia without saying we would also see that it would have a role in planning and supporting the recognition of experiential learning that has happened in the past in a consistent way. Because remember, the issue that we have with workplaces are that we need them to be partners, not passive hosts. And workplaces are varied. And we recognize that. So a tool that supports that, I would be excited about it. I think it has great opportunity. I won't take up any more time. Thank you.
Thank you, Irene. And now, because you already somehow already pushed the next stakeholder. So how is the placement? Adam, I think that's you. You can only tell us how the employers see that. Is it really like that? Tell us.
Okay, thank you very much. And I guess it's a very interesting moment to relate to what was said before. So if, we live now in times where there is such an abundance of online tools, and we all use so many of them at work, that it's also very difficult to choose the ones that we prefer. And I think it's also one of the challenges for any online tool that comes now, because you have to spend time on learning something new, and that also requires effort and motivation. So to make sure that it's useful, it needs to be efficient and it needs to be easy. This is the most important. And this is also something what companies usually say, especially smaller companies, small, medium companies, that have limited allocation of time for administration, for mentoring as well, but also have limited financial resources for that. So it's very important that any tool that tries to manage that takes into consideration the times we're in, but also this efficiency and provides that. So as long as this tool will aim at making life easier, it will be useful for companies, and this is what I guess it aims at, and for sure you'll try to do it very useful. And one of the points that I can pick up from the recommendations that your project also provided, which are also very interesting, is that, for example, it provides support for stakeholders like students and employers. And it's very important that, especially when you want to expand the pool of companies that offer apprenticeships outside of what you have now and outside of bigger companies, you need to speak a language and also provide tools that they need. And this support is crucial, yeah, because if you have a mentor in the company, it's not like every person in the company knows how to like guide a mentee. So this support in terms of like course that you're providing is very interesting, because it gives skills for people who are going to oversee the gradual enhancement of skills in the apprentices. So it's very important. But yeah, like it needs to be aimed in like in a support tools, like what Norbert was saying before, this alliance for European Alliance for Apprenticeships. It provides this very big pool of support tools, and this is something what I would also see to be done in the relation between institution and companies, especially new companies that you might, we are now going out of the crisis, so we are all working on this resilience. So it's a good moment to think how to encourage new companies to join, yeah, to provide apprentices. So for sure, tools like this one, which is easy, understandable, easy communication, is something what has to be done. And if this tool, answers this requirement, then it's great. And I hope it's going to enhance the opportunities that apprentices will receive around the continent. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. So the view of the employers was there, and now we are only missing the view or the perspective of the policymakers. So Norbert, can I call you out here?
Yes, thank you, and all very valuable contributions. Maybe 3 points. One, of course, is terminology, and I also see that we have it in the a question, which is the question I see in the here. Can we design work-based learning outside the system? Now, I think we can have endless discussion on terminology, yeah, and it will not help us, because anyway, it creates a lot of confusion. We have these terms, they exist. Maybe just to say how I see it, but I have no, let's say, right to say that you have to see it the same way. So, but for me, work-based learning is a very broad, is the broadest concept. This includes also everything related in schools, can be simulation, for instance, which plays now in the digital world quite an important role. It could be sort of even, in a vet school, you have a restaurant, and you learn the experience of that all includes work-based learning. We use the word apprenticeship in a broad sense, meaning a bit how you explained it. But for us, it's a combination of, it's a program combining the school-based part with the work-based part in a company. By the way, we're talking a lot about digital, so in a way, it should also include some digital elements, which can be either in a school or in a company. And by the way, we also have not even this, we also have intercompany training centers sometimes. So a little bit what Irene said, it's the continuum, it's this combination of everything. Of course, then we have some countries with a long traditional apprenticeship where they would say that's more the narrow approach of apprenticeship, which for me is this employer-led apprenticeship, where actually the program starts and the company hires you, you know. But we have this diversity coming from a school-based system to, let's say, a company or industry-led system. I would say the one extreme we had was the UK, where it was only industry. They called an apprenticeship, even if it was 100% in a company. There was no learning component there. It was simply on the job. They have changed the system as well. They have now 20% at least should happen in a school. So for us, apprenticeship is this combination. And then, of course, you can use apprenticeship in the different VET systems. You can only think it's for young people, but nowadays we open it up to adults, and you can use it as well, for sure, for higher education. We have dual studies, we have apprenticeship degrees, we have a lot of models which also follow the higher education. Just on the terminology, I think at least if you talk to each other, if you know what you're talking about, that's enough. I mean, we don't need to harmonize, and we still get requests to harmonize the systems at European level. And I'm not a fan of harmonization. And I can give you just an example. In Germany, we have a federal system, and people say, why in COVID you don't have the same rule all over Germany? Because it's easy. Yeah, but does it really help? Because you need to have flexible approaches. In one region, there are no COVID cases, and in others you have. So why do you need to react differently? Let's not forget about our culture, which is so important, the way we have established our systems, education system. You cannot change it within 1 year. It takes time. These reforms need to be rooted. You need to have all the key players. They have to be convinced. Employers need to be convinced to invest. If not, it will not fly. So that's why, for me, at the end, what counts is that those people who work together are convinced what they do. Now, the second point I would like to raise is the tools. And there I'm a bit with Adam. Of course, every new tool has the risk that it will not be sustainable. That is always the case. But I really defend, maybe you will not agree with that, but what I defend, that the fact that you work together is for me a value in itself. The fact that you learn and you bring these people, and that's for me Europe, bringing the people together with a different background and maybe also different stereotypes, you know, prejudices and all that. And you bring them together and they learn from it. And that, I think, is so important. If the tool at the end, and many tools have been developed, to be honest, if they will not be used, okay, it's a pity because there is an investment, but this risk remains. We cannot help it. And maybe a last point, I think, again, with Irene said, at the end, what counts is this working together. As you called it, a continuum. I think that's exactly what we need, and we need more on that. And again, we need to think outside of the boxes. That's why this approach on professional higher education, VET and higher education, all this needs, in one way or another, come together, but not in a harmonized way. And, you know, just last week, again, we were asked, somebody from the European Parliament, why is there not a European statute on apprenticeship? I don't even know what that means, because the systems are so different. There are no easy solutions to complex issues. We have simply to admit that. Thank you.
Thank you. Just because Adam mentioned the European Alliance for Apprenticeship, I would just like to share with you just for a moment before I go to my next question, and that is the commitments that all the partners in the project made to the European Alliance of Apprenticeships. And that is that we will create in next 5 years 330 quality apprenticeships promote, sorry, benefits, not benefits, benefits, benefit quality apprenticeships. We will host 35 Erasmus Mobility apprenticeships and send abroad 118 Erasmus Mobility students for placements, of course, for apprenticeship, just as a stop in between, so that you know that we also committed and we expect an impact to use it. Just to check in between the impact while I go at the last round with our
Alicia,
panelists
just
around.
say that I forgot, of course, to say how important mobility is, and that is under Erasmus. We have not discussed it. And I'm very happy to see these commitments. Of course, now under COVID, no traveling is possible at this moment. But to be honest, I'm really convinced, and I also think we have Nina. I mean, from a learner perspective, we cannot replace the mobility by virtual mobility only.
Yeah.
I think, but particularly the practical experience, you need to do that on the spot. There you learn, and you cannot replace it by digital tools, I think.
You are almost catching my last question, but before you do that, I would ask the participants, please, we are opening a new pool, the second and the last one, and it's just while we go around with the second question, would just like to know from you, would you use a tool like this for apprenticeship? Yes or no? Very simple. Just tell us what you think. So we didn't give you any other possibility than just yes or no. In the meantime, I would like to go to the last question, and that is a bit somehow what you already all mentioned. COVID. Nobody can escape COVID at this time. More than 90% of lectures, like theoretical part, academical part, was somehow done on a remote basis during the COVID spring. And I think the same thing is also going on now, probably quite a lot, if not even more, to 95% is being done more or less successfully, let us say. But then less than 10% of work-based learning or apprenticeships, or let us not be fuzzy about terminology, of in-company trainings of students were done during the COVID time. We are thinking of a remote work-based learning, which is totally against what you just said, Norbert. I'm sure we cannot replace mobilities, real mobilities and real work-based learning, but I'm sure that at least part of things can be done either by simulation, remote techniques or something. At least something can be done instead of just sit and wait. And one also important thing that came also as an impulse, that during the COVID standby situation of companies, many people use this as an opportunity to upskill and reskill, which I think is a good thing. I just don't know if we as institutions were prepared of it, if employers, for example, did think of it, of this kind of a good use of this spare time, if it is spare, of course, and students. And this time I will go the other way around. So Nina, you will be the last one. So Norbert, so what is the policy? How can we use the policy? You already mentioned quite a lot on this. So
yeah, thank you. No, I think you're fully right. You cannot fully replace mobility, and it will hopefully come back next year. And by the way, Erasmus will allow mobility for vet students as for higher education. Mm-hmm. So it will be an equal footing, which is really radically new. for apprentices and also in-company trainers. They can dream of going to, I don't know, Japan and somewhere else. Actually, young people tend to go, are more interested even beyond Europe, I would say. And Europe comes later, which I agree, but sometimes you want to go the most far it is, it's more attractive, but I think Europe has a lot to discover as well. And but at the same time, you're right. Were vet providers, were companies prepared with the situation? I'm thinking they were not prepared. But we heard of some very good examples of companies. I mentioned one at Munich Airport, but there were others examples where companies really, and Adam can maybe confirm, where they were quite creative and find this, as you say, new ways of approaching, doing group work digitally, project, they invented project just to, as you say, to keep the learning on and to keep ourselves busy. It needs a lot of flexibility again, a lot of motivation. You need always one person behind that who is convinced and committed that it's possible. But I think we learned a lot and we have done service, but we have not yet really mapped all these good examples. But that is one thing, of course, in the Alliance, we always ask our key players, do you want to share your good examples? And I think that's something which I think we can keep, because I hope that there is not a new pandemic coming, but who knows? Let's not, let's be optimistic in that sense. But some people say we cannot exclude that, and that we are ready next time. And even now I see in the US, they're talking about the third wave. I don't know, in some countries we are close to situations where it's really, we don't know if there's a difference between, again, terminology, shutdown and lockdown, but there could be some January or February, very difficult months coming back to us. And we need to use these examples, the good examples, which exist. They exist. We just need to share them.
Thank you very much, Norbert. Let us do this wrap up further on with Adam. So what do you think?
Yeah, so that's of course a very big challenge for companies to endure the crisis, because many of them had to do redundancies. So of course, when when they have to face the situation that they need to leave people without work, of course, apprentices are even more endangered by the situation. So this is certainly a very, very difficult situation, because first of all, the unemployment rising, and another one, the fact that so many companies needed to stop working or limit their the way they work or change it. That all of this created that so many new challenges this year. So probably this is going to end, hopefully, at the beginning of the next year. But the most important thing is like to take some lessons. Yeah. So the fact that we had to go through this, we need to learn something. One of the lessons for, of course, digitalization, which helped a lot in the standard education, but was more difficult in work-based learning. But also, for sure, we should also think about this diversifying pool of companies, making sure that maybe smaller amounts of students go to some companies. They are not focused only on big ones, because then like once it hits, then it's difficult. It's always easier to manage when you have more chains, more pieces of the chain in a chain itself. In some countries, like for example, like of course, the European Union provided some help for the people to keep their jobs, for the short-time work schemes. Some countries developed some tools that helped apprentices. Like for example, in the UK, there was this tool that if you kept an apprentice, the government would give you £2,000. I mean, this is all very important to make sure that this stays, because it's very easy for a company to say, okay, like we cannot take any more apprentices because we need to take care of our staff. Yeah. So then, since it's anyway a benefit of the entire economy to have apprentices to maintain the work-based learning, it's very important to also support it by public authorities. And we can see this happening in many places in Europe. And I guess we also have these lessons for the future, and we will also have to make the vocational education more resilient, yeah, to this type of shocks, because probably it's not maybe the last pandemic, but for sure that some shocks will come, and we just have to make sure that people will not have their learning experience interrupted, because it will affect their job opportunities, their professional life, and people who will be in learning in these years. Like this is, I mean, like this was a year for us, yeah. So like once you work is not that much, but like once you're in learning, 1 year is actually quite a long time. So yeah, we have to take these lessons forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Adam. The perspective of employers wrapped up. And Irene, very quickly, what about educators?
Yeah, just in terms of COVID, in terms of educators, I think what was really important was that this was really different in different sectors. So, you know, if you were working with the catering tourism sector in Ireland, that was devastated, whereas manufacturing, which is a very big sector in Ireland, had a couple of really rough weeks at the beginning, but for a large part, you know, really powered on. So very different, different sectors. So that diversification that Adam spoke about, you know, it's very important. I think, Alicia, just to say very briefly, you know, work is changing. So if workers can work without being physically in the workplace, which a lot of them could, not everybody, I realize that, but a lot of them could, then actually we're kind of going to have to expect that the experience that our work-based learners will experience will also have to change. Now, we've done some really exciting things with remote laboratories, with game-based learning, with, you know, all of that kind of thing, but the physically being in the workplace might change for some learners in the future. And we need to think about what that means in terms of the competence that they will gain, and whether they will gain the key things like being on time and how to deal with the staff canteen and how to treat, you know, a diversity of workers in the workplace. You know, so those are things that will be important challenges. Not the same for everybody. Shocks like this are going to come. We experienced a huge shock for the apprentice system in Ireland with the economic crash that we had. So this wasn't the first time we've hit the skids with this kind of work. So yeah, resilience, working together, communication.
Thank you. And then the last perspective, our future, as our president said, the future of our students. Tell us the final point.
I'm happy that I can make the final point, but I think many things have been said. Like what is happening now is a lesson for the future, and I think there's for apprenticeships also a lot of things to learn. Like for ESU, basically the students in the apprenticeship was the most like difficult thing, because education shifted to online very quickly, but we mainly received complaints and questions about what do I do with my internship or my apprenticeship, and how am I gonna still graduate this year if that is put on hold. Or because for the companies also, of course, like they first had to focus on providing their employees with the right tools and support, and after, of course, the interns came. And even though I don't want to understand, I understand that there was a shift in the focus, and that many apprenticeships have been postponed because it was too difficult for the employers to also take care of that. But I think it's a lesson for the long term, and now slowly also employers get a grasp on how to do this, and higher education institutions better know how to deal with the situation. And I think it's a lesson for the future that some things that were always done at a certain location can also be done online. And of course, it can never be a replacement, like doing things behind your laptop can never be a replacement of actually being there and learning from the person and being in the office and also getting this experience. But I think we do all learn in this time that there is many things for which you don't actually have to be present physically, and you can still learn and you can still obtain skills, even in a different way. Yeah. So I think in the long term, students just have to go with the flow, just as the employers and the employees do. But the thing we learned from this, I think, is that it's possible to do it online, and that should be done also in the future instead of just postponing it. And nobody knew by the time it came in March. We all thought, okay, I will just do my internship in September. Didn't work out. But for now, we know for the future, okay, there is ways, there is tools, and it's not a problem to obtain your skills in a different way.
Thank you very much, Nina. I think we heard now, let us say, how all different perspectives think for the future, how we should use our opportunities. And because we are not on time, as we heard quite a lot of times that during the apprenticeship, we should learn how to be on time. I would just like to close up with, yes, that 87% of the participants would like to see and use the tool. Thank you very much. We will give you the opportunity. You just give us a sign and we will help you use this tool. And in the meantime, thank you to my speakers, to Norbert, Adam, Irene, our future Nina, so Egon, also our president, and also Adriana and our ministry director general from the ministry. In the meantime, I would just like to let you know all our partners. So I invite also to join us, our partners from Malta. We have Carmen and Anthony. And then from Croatia, we have Teja and Vlatko Cvrtila, the dean. And from the Czech Republic, we have Jan. Did I miss anyone? The Slovenians are here and Russia is here. So would you please turn on your camera? Yes, I missed Mojca, Mitka, Bojan, and the directress of the Economical School of Celje, Ms. Bernarda Macheta. So welcome all of you. And please turn on your camera so that everybody can see you. A big applause to all of you. Thank you very much. I think we all have done a great job. Federica, Dubile, don't be shy. Turn on your cameras as well so that everybody can see who is standing here behind. We have Carmen, we have Anna, Nina as well. Anyone else? Do we miss anyone else? Teja and Vlatko, are they there? From Croatia, also our partners. Yes, yes, they're coming. Very good. Very good. Carmen and Teja, very good. So thank you, everybody. It's been a pleasure having this nice morning till noon. I wish you good lunch, and from those ones much Eastern than we are, you are already very at the end of your working time. So wish you a very nice day. Keep working with us and contact us for the future. Thank you very much to everybody and our partners. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you and stay safe.
Bye-bye. Yes. Stay safe.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.